Hello, grief growers, and I am coming to you live right now from, of course, where else? The Windy City, Chicago, my hometown. I chose to move outside today because the weather is so gorgeous, and you are accompanying me at the beautiful Edgewater Beach. So I will roll the camera around and give you just a little tour. There's some trees around me. There's the street, the road, public transit, all that jazz. And then right in front of me, I am staring at one of our many beautiful beaches in Chicago, which is such a great place to be this time of year. So today I want to talk to you about something called the aftershock, or the aftermath, or the second wave, or re-grieving. The letters R-E and grieving as in to grieve again. And this is a concept that has been around for a while in terms of people experiencing grief again. And a lot of people, when they experience grief again, they think, oh my God, something's wrong with me. I'm regressing back into the grief process again. I'm never going to come back from this. But I'm here to tell you that re-grieving, the aftermath, experiencing the aftershock, the second wave of grief, is a totally normal and natural human experience as it relates to grief and loss and anything else that you experience in your life. Our relationships to people, places, things, pets are so important that it would almost be crazy for us to grieve one time and just have all the grief be over, for us to never be sad about missing those things ever again. So the concept of re-grieving, while it seems crazy to our brains to be going back into grief, to seem like we're regressing, is actually very, very normal and very human, because we're re-experiencing those relationships that we were a part of, whether they're with a person, whether they're with a pet, whether they're with a place or an old job, anything like that. So I talked a little bit about re-grieving and the aftershock on this week's podcast, and you can find a link to that below and listen to it for free. Podcasts are always free in iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Google Play. You can find that everywhere. And when I talked about the aftershock, I talked about my own personal experience in both with the episode from last week, where after my mom died, I grieved again 2 years later for her death, when I discovered I had lost my voice, not necessarily my speaking or talking voice, but my inner voice, my intuition. And then this week on the podcast, I did kind of a deep dive into re-grieving my former fiance, and she and I just broke off our engagement about a month and a half ago. And last week just flattened me. For some reason, I woke up in the morning and it was like the breakup had happened yesterday and everything was brand new. And I know if you're watching, if you're listening, you are familiar with this feeling. And I would love to know what it's like for you when you wake up that morning and it's like everything happened yesterday and you're like, oh my God, I must be back to square one with my grief. And that's where I felt. And the thing with that is, when the unexpected happens, when we find ourselves grieving again, we get pissed, because we think, society thinks, that you grieve once, you go to the funeral, you have a memorial, you sit Shiva, you're done for it, and you move on and you look forward and all these other positive affirmations that society gives us. But we don't always move on, and especially with grief, it's more of an experience than it is an event. And so when we're re-grieving, it's a normal process. But of course we still get angry, because we think that grief is a one and done process until somebody tells us otherwise. So when I woke up this morning, of course, I was very angry that I was experiencing grief about this again. And then what I did, and the tips I want to share with you today, is to hit the pause button and to acknowledge that re-grieving, experiencing the aftershock, experiencing the second wave, is a real, natural, normal human process. And there is a way to weather it without pushing it off, pushing it aside, or just burying it down deep to deal with later. And it's a 3-step process. I like working in threes a lot. So this is a 3-step process. The first thing that you want to do is say pause. Hit the pause button, take a breath, recognize I am grieving something again, whether it's grieving a breakup like I did, whether it's grieving a death all over again, where maybe one of your parents died a long time ago and now another one has died and it's bringing up the death of the first one, you're grieving again. Whether it's an anniversary or a holiday, or like Christmas or Father's Day or something, and you're re-grieving somebody who's very important to you all over again. You wake up that morning and it's like it happened yesterday, and you're like, this is re-grieving. This is not me regressing. This is not impacting every single area of my life. This is not going to last forever, but this is me grieving again. And that's really important to wake up and note, because that awareness to the process of the aftershock, to the process of re-grieving, is so vital in taking the next step, which is affirm and acknowledge whatever you're feeling. So if you're pissed that you're grieving again, say it out loud, write it down, tell somebody you know that you're pissed that you're grieving again. Are you sad that this person has gone out of your life, or that you lost that job and you don't get to see or interact with those coworkers ever again? Or are you sad that you're not the person that you used to be, or you're not the person that you were supposed to be by this point in your life? And that's also a process of grieving or re-grieving, is to look at our lives and say, this is not what I expected, this is not what I wanted it to be. And so to acknowledge those feelings through whatever medium works best for you. I'm a writer, so I spent about 2 hours journaling that morning about everything that was coming up for me. A lot of people do video diaries, they blog, they speak about it. A lot of people will text 1 or 2 friends and say, hey, I'm just having a shit day and I feel like this happened yesterday. What do you think about it? Or can you support me through this? And a lot of people will post on Facebook group communities. You could post in the Grief Growers Garden, which is my personal Facebook group community of everybody who's committed to growing through grief together. You can tell us you're having a shitty day and re-grieving again, and we'll be there to support you, myself included. And then you can also even just do some inner practices with yourself. Just sitting, if you sit in meditation ever, you can say, this is what I'm feeling today, and just watch these grief thoughts move through. It's very much a mindfulness activity. So first, hit the pause button. Forgive yourself for being angry, for grieving, and acknowledge that this is just a normal human process. Experiencing the second wave, the third wave, the fourth wave, the 20th wave of grief is totally 100% normal. Second, acknowledge whatever feelings are coming up for you. Sadness, relief, anger, being pissed, being so torn up that this is not your life anymore, being nostalgic, like you smell something or you hear a song and you're shot right back there, and all these feelings and stuff come up. Acknowledge all of those feelings as they come up. Don't tamp them down with food. Don't turn on Netflix. Don't, surf the internet on your phone. Don't catch the early bus to work. Sit with yourself for 5 minutes. I beg you. And just acknowledge those feelings. I'm so sorry it's so windy out here. I'm rearranging my hair all the time. And then the last thing you want to do, step 3 in this 3-step process, is to cope however feels best for you. And this is a place where you can tune in from all of those feelings now that they've been acknowledged in step 2, is to say, okay, where do I go from here? Is this a day where I need to take a break? Is this a day where I'd like to create something? Is this a day where I would like to rest? Is this a day where I would like to see somebody who has been on this journey with me? Is this a day where I'd like to see somebody who knows nothing about this journey and can kind of pull me into a new conversation? Once you acknowledge those feelings, any coping, any healing that you do after that is going to be aware and mindful, because you have taken the steps to acknowledge that the feelings exist in the first place. So if you do go out to dinner with your roommates, if you do call your mom to catch up, if you do play with a pet or head down to a shelter to pet some dogs, you are doing those activities mindfully because you have acknowledged your feelings about the re-grieving process, about having the aftershock in step 2. So after I did my 2 hours of writing, when I was experiencing what felt like a breakup for the second time, I texted a few friends, I went on a walk, I actually took a little bit of time off of the work that I was supposed to be doing for the day, and I slept. And I watched a movie that reminded me very, very heavily, not just of people that I loved, like my sister, but my mom as well, who is also gone. And so there was this awareness and this mindfulness that was brought to those coping activities because I sat with my feelings for that little bit in the morning. So that's the 3-step process for dealing with the aftershock of grief. So if you're waking up in the morning, you're getting ready to go to sleep at night, and you feel like, oh my God, I'm experiencing this loss for a second time. I'm experiencing this divorce for a second time. I'm experiencing this miscarriage for a second time. I'm experiencing this pet loss for a second time, and it's hitting me again. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? Don't panic. We're here. I'm here with you. Forgive yourself. This is a normal, natural, human experience to grieve again. These relationships are so important to us. Of course we would grieve them for a second time, a third time, a 20th time. We remember them always. We don't just forget about them because they're dead and gone and no longer occurring in our daily lives. Second step in the process, acknowledge your feelings. Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling nostalgic? Are you feeling pissed that it's happening again? Are you feeling bitter towards people who maybe played a part in it that you still have to interact with on a daily basis? Acknowledge whatever's coming up for you, and then cope however you like to cope with that mindful awareness of the feelings that are coming up for you. Watch a movie that reminds you of people that you love. Go out to dinner with roommates who really support you. Meet a friend who maybe has never heard your grief story experience before and talk about something really fun. Or call a relative who has had a grief experience with you and bounce ideas off them. I'm having a really hard day. Can you just sit with me through this? It's such a beautiful process. I want to know where all of you are in your grief stories and experiences. If you have ever experienced re-grieving, the aftershock, the second wave of grief, what has that felt like for you? Please share your story below here. As I mentioned earlier, you can also listen to the full episode where I talk about aftershock and re-grieving. It's always free. The podcast is called Coming Back: Conversations on Life After Loss. It's stories from me. It's stories from a bunch of really cool people that I know about what it means to come back to our lives after we've experienced major loss and to incorporate loss into our lives. And so we don't just grieve and tamp it down and get on with, like, society often prompts us to do, but we actually take a proactive measure to incorporate our grief and loss into our lives, because these relationships are that important. The people we lose are that important. The jobs, the husbands, the wives, the partners, the kids, the houses that we lose are that important to us that we need to incorporate them into our lives. So that podcast is always free, and there's always a new episode every Wednesday, just like there's always a new live video every Thursday where we talk about it. So you can view that full episode by clicking the link in the comments. I still never remember if it's up here or down here, but it's one of those two. And then I would absolutely just love to hear from you in my private Facebook group. It's called The Grief Growers Garden. And apparently I love alliteration because I keep doing it everywhere. But we've got about 40 members right now, and it's growing very slowly but steadily into this beautiful community of people who share pictures with each other of loved ones they've lost, or comics that are really funny and, like, ironically funny about grief and loss. And we share articles that help us and videos that help us, and just things and tips for coping. And on hard days, we just say, I'm having a hard day. Can I have your support? His birthday's coming up. Can I have your support? Mother's Day is coming up. Can I have your support? And it's a place where we really have each other's backs. So I just so appreciate all of you tuning in today. I would love to hear your stories about the aftershock. Listen to the podcast. Would love to have you as a listener. Let me know what you think always. And I am reachable here on this Facebook page as well as Instagram at Grief Guide Shelby Forsythia. I love you all so much. Thank you for tuning in today, and let me know if this video helped you. And enjoy your beautiful summer. Look at this beach. Yay! I'll see you guys next week.